Well, about the mental health aspect, like, am I oversaturating
Yeah,
myself?
or like,
I'm already so jaded and pessimistic, and I think this is just one of many ways that we're fucked. I mean, th- just because this happened doesn't mean that the Ukraine Russia thing is over. It doesn't mean that the China Taiwan situation is over. Like, the US empire is, and its vassals are, like, causing trouble all over this globe. So it's just one flashpoint among many. It's the one that has our attention now, but it doesn't mean that Ukraine is over. It doesn't mean that, whatever happened during the COVID disaster is over. They're still doing this dangerous research, bioweapons. Like, what's gonna be our doom? What's gonna destroy us? Take your pick, man. It could be any number of things. So it's all
I think that's a really
depressing.
good point. I'm just saying, like, in terms of like your day to day life, there might I might be following. Again, I'm just speaking for myself here, but like I might be spending time on this rather than reading a book. Whereas I think the reading the book. I mean, at what point does a person just kind of like detach themselves a little bit and say, reality's fucked. Like, this is history repeating itself. Humanity does this. I'm gonna create my own
Well,
little
what
worlds
I
where
often
I
do, what I often do in that situation is think, however bad I feel for myself. Oh, I'm so miserable and depressed. How unfortunate. I try to put myself in the position of a Palestinian in the Gaza Strip. Like, and then I feel ashamed of myself. It's like I'm complaining about my privileged life with all the benefits I have. Yes, I there are many annoying things, there are injustices I suffer. There are a lot of fucking idiots, like, uh interfering with my life in various ways, or people I have to deal with at work or wherever it may be. Some asshole at the 7-Eleven, it could be, or whatever, right? And then I just feel embarrassed. I feel ashamed of myself. I'm complaining about that. Just look at what these other
again a
people are
good
dealing
point,
with.
but I'm just asking. I want to know like how much like is there a point like what is the point of us following the story and you know what I'm
I
saying? Do you
mean,
understand what I'm saying? Like, I agree with what you just said, but I'm saying, like, when you have the decision to follow a current humanitarian disaster or play the guitar, is there any kind of tension there sometimes?
well, that I
Like,
see
what to
what you
do with your
mean.
time?
I see what you mean. I mean, someone very close to me just is completely uninterested in politics or current affairs, or what's the state of the world. Like, she just doesn't care. It just doesn't. She just focuses on her life and the people close to her, and I can't argue with that. Like, maybe that's the smarter thing to do, but that's not.
My person is like that too, pretty
Well,
much.
so that,
And I
can
and I
we
don't and I don't knock it at all.
can we say that's wrong? I mean, maybe we're the
Definitely
idiots.
not.
Maybe we're the idiots, like, obsessing over it and trying to understand it. But that, I know that's how I am. Like, I want to understand. I think it's important to understand because it does affect my life too. Like, what's going on in other parts of the empire. I almost said the Matrix. Um, that has an effect here. That has an effect here. Like, it is all related, and those people are us, as you say, on both sides. You could also put yourself in the position of an Israeli citizen whose kid was murdered by these resistance fighters or terrorists or whatever you want to call them. How would you feel about that? Like, that would also be much worse than whatever little issues I'm dealing with. Like, it's just overwhelming, and you have to have a certain modesty, and uh, it really. for me puts things in perspective. But I want to know what's going on because it relates to my life. I feel this is our world. I should know as much as I can about it, and what can I do? Is there anything I can do? Am I complicit in this? Like, what can I do? Not much, but I can at least try to process it and then have an opinion and express it. Or if I don't have a strong opinion, I can talk about it and like process it with other people like you and anyone. And then, you
I'm
know,
just sometimes this quote comes to mind sometimes from Thoreau, and I bet you know this quote, and it says, "To a philosopher, all news, as it is called, is gossip, and they who edit and read it are old women over their tea."
he's not wrong. I mean,
I think
to
we maybe have even mentioned that, talked about this quote before,
uh
but
that's is that in Walden or
yeah, I believe so.
okay.
Yeah,
Well, I've certainly read it then, but I don't remember that. I just remember his description of the ants that are fighting each other, and it reminds him of, humans and their armies at war. But
yeah,
you have to remember he was also an activist, right? Like he was in jail for civil disobedience and refusal to pay the war tax. So he also involved himself in current affairs, right?
yeah. And I think it's a it's a fucking genocide that might just happen in a second. So I don't think we're certainly not immoral for feeling upset by it and
And how
seeing what's going on.
how ironic is it that, these people that might commit a potential genocide are themselves at least, or they identify themselves with the people who experience that themselves. It's like you know
It's ironic and at the same time like completely logical, right?
yeah, but that also explains the logic of the people who conducted the surprise attack. It's the cycle of violence. There's that line from the Auden poem. uh I can't quote it exactly, but those to whom evil is done do evil in return.